Hey, this is Bobby Karan. I'm going to do a follow-up with on my little video about how to build a domain controller. Going to have some additions, corrections, and where to go from there. Uh, Hope to be covering some group policy stuff.
Alright, this is Bobby Karan back with continuing building a domain controller, and I am going to talk about some user items and group policy. So one of the first things that we do is talk about user file storage. So there's two options to go about this. There is home drives and folder redirection. So I'm going to see about disk partitions here. One of the things that I like to do is to keep the operating system and the user data separate. So this is going to be a domain controller, and we're also going to put the user files on here. So it should be a DCFS device. We're going to online this new hard drive, and we are going to initialize it. And we're going to go with GPT. And a new simple volume. We can use D for data, F for files, U for user. All depends on your personal preferences. I'm going to name this data. Finish up, and we have a dual drive system. This is also important in backups, and so we have our IT service account. We have our employees. So we're going to give Bobby a home folder. We're going to connect Z drive to a shared folder. And the way to do that, let's go down here to D. And we're going to make a Karan IT folder and a company folder. The IT folder, like to do this just for a place to have IT files. We're going to go into advanced sharing, and we're going to make this a hidden share. Everyone can read. We're going to say that domain admins have full control on the share. As far as security goes, administrators have full access, users have read only. That's the default. So in the company folder, we're going to have our shares. We have shares, and we're going to have home folders, and we're going to have a folder redirection share. Alright, and so one of the things we're going to do first here is go in security. I'm going to go into advanced and disable inheritance. We do not want the same permissions to be replicated to this special home folder. We are going to have creator owner for subfolders and files only. we're going to select Add, select Principal, Authenticated Users. We're going to show advanced permissions. We don't want them to create files. We do want them to create folders. No deleting, no writing. You can read permissions, read extended attributes. And we're going to change this to this folder only. So that is basically going to give authenticated users the ability to create their own folder. Special, this folder only. Creator owner, so when they create their folder, they're going to have complete access to that folder. We're going to give that a OK. Go back into properties, advanced sharing, share this folder, and we're going to share that as home with a $sign. And what the $sign does is gives it makes it hidden so that no one can see that just by browsing the network. You can add everyone full control here, but what I like to do is authenticated users, and it works better if I spell it right, and give authenticated users full control. A little bit more restrictive than everyone. So now that users have a home folder to go to, we can go to Caron DC 001 home $sign, and that's going to be our path. I'm going to select P for your personal folder. You could do H for home drive. I'm going to do H for home drive. And everyone will have their own personal home drive. I'm going to use b.caron because this is the login. Copy the login name and make that the folder name. Now watch when I hit apply, and it automatically creates that folder in there and gives b.caron the ownership permissions of that folder. I'm going to take a look at security. We don't have permissions. Because I am under the IT folder. But when bcaron logs in, he will have access to that folder. The other possibility is having folder redirection. So for folder redirection, we're pretty much going to do the same thing. Set the security, advanced, disable the inheritance, remove users. Now for this, we're going to go to our security groups. We're going to create a new group, folder redirection. This is a security group. We're going to add the folder redirection group in there, and let it create folders and append data in this folder only. Ta-da. they're not going to need the traverse folder execute file. Just list, read, create. This folder only. And let me check this. I think I forgot. Authenticated users. Yep, do not need traverse and execute. Yep. Okay. So now that those are set up, we can go into group policy management. We're going to go ahead and pin this to the taskbar. And this is a very fresh domain. Go to domains, expand that. We have the default domain policy. Just want to tell you that this is a link and not the policy itself. We have our users, security groups, and here is where group policies actually live. And we currently have 2. We'll occasionally get that every once in a while. Permissions are inconsistent. You want to go ahead and get them consistent. So the default domain controllers policy. Gotta love Microsoft. Doesn't trust its own internal sites. So the scope is authenticated users. The thing to know about this is that authenticated users consists of domain users and all domain computers. So once you join a computer to a domain, it becomes part of the authenticated users group. This is on the domain controllers OU. So right here is where that is linked to, and that is what it's applying to. You can go to settings and show all to see the default settings. Access computers from the network. It's basically just for the domain controllers, and its defaults are usually exactly what's needed. You can see this is applied. The default domain policy is applied to the entire domain and authenticated users. Getting the report, show all. It enforces a password history of 24 passwords. Maximum password age is 42 days. Minimum password age, or maximum password age, is the number of days before you have to change your password. Minimum password age says that once you change the password, you can't change it again for a full 24 hours. Minimum password length is 7 by default, and it has to meet complexity. But it's, in a nutshell, a good mixture of lowercase letters, capital letters, numbers, and special characters. And they have to total the minimum password length, and you need at least 3 of those 4. One of the things we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and edit this group policy. And here it says the computer configuration, policies, window settings, security settings, account policies. We're going to go to policies, window settings, security settings, account policies. I'm going to go to the password policy. I think 24 is a bit much, so we're going to use the past, cut that in half and put 12. 42 days is even, so I'm going to set it up to 45 days. Minimum password age of 1 day, that's good. I want to go ahead and go up to at least a minimum of 8 characters. And we're going to apply that. Going to use must meet complexity. Account lock throughout duration. Well, we're going to define this. We're going to say that you're going to be locked out for 5 minutes after the lockout threshold, which is 5 invalid logon attempts. So if you put in your password wrong 5 times, you're going to be locked out for 5 minutes before you can try again. If you set it to 0, it'll be locked out permanently until an administrator unlocks it. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up to 7 minutes. That's pretty much all the stuff we need to do on the default domain policy. So now we're going to go to create a new policy. Just right click on group policy and click new. Folder redirection. So currently now it has no policies in it. I'll open the policies here. User configuration policies, folder redirection. So you can redirect the roaming app data. This is a very bad idea. Do not do this. Except in very controlled environments. For example, there are some VPN softwares and other stuff that put its connection information into the roaming app data. If you are outside the office and have folder redirection, you don't have access to your app data until after you connect to the VPN. And you cannot connect to the VPN until you have connection to your app data. You can redirect the desktop. So this is useful if you have a RDS server farm that your employees work off of, so that they have the same desktop across all servers that they might connect to. If it is not restricted to just the RDS farm, it's usually not a great idea to redirect your desktop, because users will inevitably put all kinds of files and everything else on their desktop, and having the desktop shared across the network like that is probably not going to help, and it does create problems. Start menu, documents. So the documents is one we want to configure. We can redirect everyone's folder to the same location. And we need a root path. Go back to our folder redirection. We have set the permissions for the group. And here you just see special permissions. Now we're going to share this folder. I'm going to use a short name, FRD, Folder Redirection. I'm going to give authenticated users full control of the share. So that is something to note, is that the sharing permissions are separate from the security permissions. Also, something worth mentioning here is in the advanced sharing, you can add a share name. The $sign again makes it hidden. And everyone has read. Authenticated users have full control. You can even add folder redirection, completely not hidden, but everyone only has read access to it. Nobody can change anything. We're not going to do that. We're going to stick with instead of home, we're going to be FRD. The hidden share. And everyone has FRD. And when we hit apply here, it does absolutely nothing. We have some options here in the settings that we're going to want to look at. Do we want the user to have exclusive rights to the documents folder? That means domain administrators can't get to it, nobody else can. Maybe. But we might want to give domain admins rights to their documents folder. Just in case. If not, we can later, if the employee leaves, we can take control of it. But let's just have it there for future. If the policy is removed, do we want to leave it all the documents there, or do we want to send them back to their local workstation? Let's leave the documents there. Let's see. Pictures. We want to follow the documents folder. Music. We can get it to follow the documents folder, but really we don't want people's music and photos on the desktop unless they are company related. So let's go ahead and say they're company related. We can follow the documents folder here. The company doesn't do music, so we do not need to do that. Do not need to do videos. People usually like to have access to their favorites, so this can be redirected as well, but it is, again, the basic redirect everyone to the same location, and you can do it just like the documents folder. Same with contacts, downloads. Again, that's going to be more useful. Favorites, contacts, and downloads are going to be more useful in a remote desktop server farm. And that's all we need to do for folder redirection. We can then apply this by clicking and dragging, or we can go up to employees and link existing GPO and make our employees get folder redirection. for my documents the next time they log on. This will not apply to our service accounts nor our vendor accounts, because it is in the employees OU. But it's going to apply to all employees. Pretty sure we don't want it to apply to all employees, which is why we made that folder redirection group. We only want certain individuals to get the folder redirection. That can be office staff, that can be VIPs. Whoever we put in there will be the ones to get that. And in order to make that accurate, we need to remove authenticated users. So nobody gets it now. We're going to put folder redirection back. The folder redirection group now gets this security policy. Now, for the most part, that is going to be sufficient. I do, however, like to go ahead and put domain computers in there so that it will apply to any computer these users log on to. Folder redirection usually doesn't have a problem if it's just the folder redirection group. Other policies might not apply properly if you don't put domain computers. Alright, so another thing about group policy is to get a good structure for group policy going, and something that people can work with later on. This is the if you get hit by a bus practice here, is to only use one group policy for one thing. So like we have folder redirection, we have drive map company share. We'll have drive map for executive share. You could have drive map for accounting. You can have remote desktop server performance. You can have remote desktop server drive map policy, so that people will get different drive maps if they log on to the remote desktop server versus if they log on to other computers, which is why there's a servers and RDS servers OU up here. The RDS servers are a little bit of a special breed. Alright, now we're going to go into some troubleshooting for group policy. So we're going to switch users, which for this is going to have to sign out, so I'll be right back. And yes, it does. Okay. Going to do a GP update. And a GP result H. And we're going to do this into the D. Crown IT. Username GP result HTML. So if I click on this PC, you will now see our C drive, the data drive, and a mapped b.quran H drive, which goes to our home folder. And that's part of the Active Directory that we did. Well, let's go into data, go to Quran IT, see what results we have here. Yep. Scroll down. We got the folder redirection policy. No, this was denied. We're not in the folder redirection group. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my documents. I'm going to make sure this is C users Quran documents. I'm going to create me a new text document in here. Test. Alright. I'm going to log off and log back on. So here we are applying folder redirection policy. This is usually going to take a little bit of time the first time it's applied, because what it's doing is moving all of the local documents over to the folder redirection share. So if you implement this and you already have employees, they've been having years of documents, you need to know that this is going to take a little bit of time. The first thing I want to do, look at documents. I got music, pictures, and my test. So I'm going to go to here to users, Quran, and what? Yeah, there's no documents folder. It is now living in the folder redirection. So I hope this has been a good demonstration of group policy, folder redirection, and home drives.